Hello and welcome to our second tutorial by Rex the Coder, right? So yeah, I do hope you did enjoy the very first tutorial, and yeah, you're ready to learn more, right? So let's get right to it, right? So in this tutorial or in this video, what we're going to be covering is operators. So we have different kinds of operators. We're gonna break them down and discuss them. Then we'll discuss conditional statements, right? And then we'll do a bit of combining the two, these operators with the conditional statements, right? So the conditional statement we're going to learn in this tutorial is the if statement, right? Put in a condition that if this is the case, then do this. If that's not the case, then execute this statement, right? We're going to get to that. So let's break down the operators that we have. We have different categories of operators in C. We have arithmetic operators. So these are the operators that we use whenever we want to do math related operations, right? And then we have comparison operators. This is us comparing two things, right? So in this case, we're going to be just comparing two numbers. So we'll be doing that. Then we have an if statement. So this is going to be the conditional statement. It's not supposed to be here. This is just, well, I don't know, I have it there, but it slipped, I guess. But it wasn't supposed to be there because it's not part of the operators. But yes, we're just gonna have to, we're gonna discuss the if statement, which is gonna be part of the conditional statements, right? Cool. So let's break down the arithmetic operators. This might seem more familiar to those who've done maths and those who are not so used to maths or haven't gotten used to them. It's not that complicated. It's pretty much straightforward. So yeah, let's get right. Let's just break them down, right? So we have addition. So this is you adding two numbers, finding the sum of two numbers, right? You use addition. And then we have the plus operator. And then we gonna go to subtraction. So subtraction is you finding the difference of two numbers. So it's gonna be the minus operator. Then we have division. This is you dividing, right? But then this has two types. Either it's a float division or a floor division. It's a float and a floor division. Take a division just to not cause confusion because I'm saying float and floor. But if you're saying C word, right? So yeah, that's the two types of division that C allows you to perform in terms of division, right? So it's two categories. We have float division, right? Which is just that. Recalling from our data types discussion, which is the first tutorial. So a float is a number with a decimal. So in this case, this division results in a decimal number. And then we have an integer division, right? So an integer division results in an integer value, right? So this is an integer division, or it's also called floor division, right? And then that's the function that we're going to be using. I will explain the header file that we're going to be including in this tutorial, which is a math header file, right? Cool. And then we have multiplication. So mostly you guys know across, in this case it's going to change. In coding it's asterisk, or in C it's an asterisk, right? More like a star if you want, right? Then you have exponentiation. In this case we're going to use a function called pow, which is from the math header file. I haven't started talking about header files yet. We're just discussing what's inside your code, right? We're going to talk about all these files that we use in our code, right? For instance, we import standard input. In this case, it's going to be another header file that we include, which is the math header file, right? So we're going to be discussing all about that. Then we have none other than the modulus operator, which is just a percentage sign, right? It's a modulus. What it does, it gives, or it results in a remainder. So a modulus results in a remainder. So if you divide something by something, and or let's say you divide two numbers, and the number you divide them by doesn't go fully to that number, the result you're gonna get is not how many times this number goes to, but the remainder, or what gets left when the number is not, or yes, it's just a remainder of the division actually. And then power, we're just raising a number to a power, say 2 to 2 is gonna be 4, right? And then you have multiplication, division, we did explain that, addition, subtraction, that's just that. Cool. So let's practice this before we head over to the other operators. Cool. Let's get right to it. This so we are looking for C, right? That's where we are. Make it a full screen. Let's zoom in a bit. There we go. I think I overdid it. Did I? Yeah, I overdid it. There we go. So we're gonna exclude all this, and then as I've mentioned in the previous one, what else about this part, we're gonna be talking about this at a later stage when we talk about header files, methods we get from header files. I didn't want to include that because it might be a bit confusing at a point, so it's better to just start with what's inside, and then we'll get to the outside as to what gives us access to the methods that we get to access, right? Cool. So we have standard input output .h, right? Standard input output. And then in this tutorial we're going to also include a library called math.h. It's a header file, right? You remember this is our main. And then if our code successfully compiles 10.0, but in the previous one we didn't include this, so we can just run this to see if our environment is ready, and we can see that there are no errors, so we can begin coding, right? So we just discussed operators, right, which are arithmetic operators. So we'll start with addition, then subtraction, division, division, and multiplication, and then we'll talk about division. We can't be doing that, it's float division, then it's floor division. Cool. Multiplication, then it's modulus. Cool. Let's start with the addition, right? So addition. Cool. So you have two numbers. These you know from the previous tutorial. If not, pause and then go back before you continue, because you might get confused, right? And then we're gonna continue by displaying the sum of these numbers, right? So it's printf. Again, this is from the previous. If it's an integer, it's d or I, right? So let's just use d. And then we want to display the sum, so that's just that, and then end the line. Yeah, then after that we provide our, so let's just create a variable sum, which is going to be used to operate the two. So it's a plus b, right? It's a plus b, right? And then we display the sum. Can have a bit of a space there, and display the sum, and then we execute, right? So the sum is 50 because you're adding 20 plus 30, right? That's your sum. Do forgive me, I am a bit fluish. I got fluish virus, so I got some flu. Cool. So what I want you to do for this one, because I want you guys to also learn, right? So for this one, subtraction, it's more or less the same thing. Just do what we did for addition, because what we did is we have two numbers. Then what we did, we performed addition, and then we stored the sum of these two in a variable called sum, which is of an integer data type. Cling cling. This reminds us of what we learned in the very first tutorial. So if you haven't watched the first tutorial, I advise you go and watch that before you continue with this video so that you don't feel lost. Cool. Let's go to float division. It's the same thing as what we did there. So I'd say go to do this one as well, and then we'll talk about the new type, because the format is the same as this format. It's just going to be instead of a plus it's a slash, a division, right? So get to practice that. Yeah, to let me know if it's confusing, then we'll do it. Cool. To do. Now let's go to a float division or integer division. Integer division. Cool. Right? So say you have those two numbers, right? It's a and b, right? Now you want to divide a by b, but then you want the floor division, so it's difference, let's just call it diff, and then we want to perform that operation. So to do that, we're going to use a method inside the math library called floor, as discussed. And then inside we're gonna have a divided by b. So this is the product that you get from dividing the two, right? So the result, what this floor does is it only takes the number before the decimal point. The number after the decimal is disregarded, right? It's not rounding, it is disregarding the decimal part. So if we run this, we get 50, right? Because we didn't display printf. Then okay, let's just do this printf. Then we have a percentage. Since it's an integer, it's d. Oh, it's div. Let's call it div, not difference. Difference is gonna be something else. It's div. There we go, and we do what? We provide div, right? Oh, div. Okay, we have a method called div, so we can't be using that, which brings us to what we discussed before, that variable names can be named after keywords or can be named the same as keywords, right? Cool. Semicolon and our statement, and we execute. So it's 0. 20 divided by 30, right? Okay, let's say we're dividing 5 by 2. 5 by 2, so yeah, it goes 0 because 0 point something, right? So if you have this, you should be having 2. But if you were to perform this, if you would have seen that from this float division, it would be 2.5. So what this one does, it disregards the decimal part. I do believe that that makes sense. Multiplication was the same thing as others to do. Then I can talk about the modular sign, right? The modular sign. So if you divide 5 by 2 is 2.5, right? So 2 goes there twice and leaves 1, which is half. It's half, right? That 0.5, it's half of 1, right? Cool. So let's just say int 5 modulus 2. So let's just call this p. Just a random variable, which is not a good practice, but this is just an example, right? Cool. Percentage, and then it's an integer, so it's d, and then you have p. Cool. And then you have p, right? There we go. Execute this and we get 1. I know I didn't put in the end line there, so that's why we have a problem. So we have this, so also there I didn't put the end line. There we go, and we have ourselves a very nice layout, very nice layout, right? Cool. So let's head over to our slides. Then we're gonna discuss the remaining operators. Then we're gonna go to conditional statements. Cool. So We have an assignment operator. We use this when we were creating a variable and assigning a value to a variable, right? So it's just an equal sign. So what the assignment operator does, it stores a value to your variable. It takes the value that you're providing and stores it to the variable that you're creating in memory, right? Then we have comparison operators. So these are the most fun part of them, because this is just you comparing two things, right? I mean, you get to have a bit of an argument. Oh, what if I compare this? I have something. If I compare this, I have something. So by now you noticed on how we did the arithmetic operators, right? So they always results in a data type, which is 321. Let's all see numeric data type, right? Cool. So comparison data type, if you're comparing two things, if I say you are taller than you, say you have two people, right? You have person A and person B, and person A is taller than person B, and then you say, is person A taller than person B? You only have two possible answers, right? It's either it's a yes or it's a no. That's where comparison is, and I'm pretty much sure you know what data type we're going to be dealing with. It is okay. Keep that to yourself, and I'm going to be showing you the comparison statements. Then we'll discuss the data type that it is. At least you get to have something to think about as you're learning. Cool. So we have an equal sign. So with this one, I'm saying is this equals to this, right? So the equal sign is just two assignment operators after the other, so it's two of them. Don't have a space in between them, it's two of them, right? That's an equal sign. So if you see two assignment operators, it's not an assignment operator anymore, it's an equal sign operator. Then we have not equal, so we just have an exclamation mark and an assignment operator. We have greater than, you guessed it right, it's a greater than sign. Less than is less than, right? And then the thing about this is that now you can use the assignment operator in combination with some of the comparison all of the comparison operators and the arithmetic operators, right? And I'm going to show you just now as to how you go about doing that. So cool, let's clear this code. I think we shouldn't have cleared all of that, and just came and deleted this and deleted this just to make it less complicated. Assignment operator that you know, equal operator, equal operator, then we have not equal operator, then we have greater than, and then we have less than, right? Cool. So what I'm going to do is just compare two numbers and display their result, right? So I'm going to do this by just using a print statement. I don't want to just complicate it, because where we use these operators is when we get to deal with conditional statements, right? So if this is true, then you get to have a value. If this is true, then you get to have this value, right? That's perfect, right? Cool. So let's start with the print with the equal sign. So it's print printf, and then it's lf, right? If we remember correctly from our, it's lf or lf, I believe, from our previous tutorial. Then we get right to it, right? So say I have 5 equals 5. Let's hope this works and I haven't forgotten. Oh, there we go. It is true, right? Say 0, which is not the case. Let's use integer then. Yeah, let's just use d. There we go, this is the right one. So true is displayed or it's indicated using a 1, right? A 1 says it's true, 0 is false, right? Cool. So if I have not equals to that, I should expect a 0, right? D, then we have 5 not equals to 6, which is true. But if I say this, then I should get a 0 because 5 is 5, right? And then you get 0. But then you notice now it gives you 10, which is not really 10. It's 1, 0. So this is a binary number, but we're not going to get to that now. So we just missed ending a line there and ending a line there. Right? If we execute this now, you will see we have 1 and then we have 0, right? Greater than is the same thing, so I want you guys to practice with the greater than, to do, and to do. If you get to not succeed into doing that, just let me know in the comment section and we'll get to cover it during our next week tutorial. But that should be it. It's not that complicated. Do take your time to get to understand all these operators. I know I'm just showing just a bit and then leaving a bit of work for you guys to do. This is much more effective, or in a way that, or in a sense that you get to do something, because sometimes you get to watch something and then you think that you understand something and then you realize later that no, I don't really understand what I'm doing, I thought I understood, but when you get to do it yourself, you get to see that no, I'm not actually mastering all this. So cool. Let's head over to our last slide, which is gonna be the most interesting, because that's where we get to apply our comparison. We can't just be happy that we can print 1 and 0, but we will be happy with having a condition that, okay, if this is this, then do this, if this is this, then do this. And then that brings us to the topic of if statement, which is a conditional statement, right? That's what they call it. That's what they call it in if statement. It's a conditional statement. We'll talk about loops and all that in the next year. I think in next week tutorial we're going to be talking about we'll be talking about loops. We'll be covering loops. So this is the syntax of an if statement. You start with an if keyword, then you're going to have a condition, and then you're going to have an opening bracket, and then you have whatever statements that you want to be executed under that condition, and then you close it. If you're not satisfied with that condition, or you have multiple conditions, you can add an else if, and then you provide the second condition, and then you have your statements in between, you close. Once you're done, you just have this one last statement which covers everything. So if all statements that you have, say you have 5 conditions, you can have else if for condition 2, else if for condition 3, else if for condition 4, and then else if for condition 5. If all those 5 conditions were not met, you can have one last statement in which is just a default one, where if all conditions have not been met, then do this, right? And then you have your statements, right? Cool. Let's apply that and we shall be closing this. So you guys did practice how to use the modulars, all those operators, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a program that checks if a number that we're providing as an input is an even number or not. Cool. So we have a number, right? This oh, this is not Python, this is something new. So we have int number. So if we're trying to pull Python in C. Cool. And then what we have is we have scanf, and then we provide the data type, which is an integer, right? So it's an integer and then it's supposed to be inside a string. Then it's an and sign, and then it's a number. Yep, number. Cool, right? Once you're done with that, we're going to have a condition if, and then we have this, if this number modulus 2 equals 0. You see how many operators we used. We have a modulus operator, and the equal sign operator. Printf, and then we have yes is even. Cool. So we're not going to complicate this, but I want you guys to also, as a way of learning, to add or apply else if it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same format as this, just that for another else if it's going to be else if, right? And then you have your other condition, or I just put it that way. Let's just do one of it so that you don't get to be confused. Else if number equals 6, then printf is 6, right? Cool. Let's have an else, and then with this one we're just gonna do invalid, right? Cool. So let's run this. We provide 50 and then we execute. It's even because it's divisible by 2, right? And then if it's 6, it's gonna be even and divisible by 2, but it's gonna give you even, right? So that's one of the things that you get to put into consideration, that this is gonna be running that statement and that statement, right? So it runs this. If this is met, it's not gonna run the other statement. So that number is 6, right? So say we make it 7, which is not divisible by 6, yeah, which is not divisible by 2, and then run this, then we're gonna get our number is oh, I forgot, this is 7 and then this is 7. And please do less in terms of the speed. This is just teaching so that you guys can pick up in terms of the concepts. Then we're gonna get to a part where we do most of examples. Let's execute this. We should get number is 7, and then if number is not 7 and is not divisible by 2, say 3, the default one should be ran, which is invalid because it's not meeting the condition. So this we discussed in the previous, and if you're not really that comfortable with this, please go rewatch that video to understand this, because I can promise you that it's gonna get more intense and more intense, right? So do take your time to understand your concepts, learn your concepts very well, and you shall be fine. And yeah, we shall see each other in the next Tuesday, in the next episode, which is going to be episode 3 of C programming. That's it for me, and do enjoy. And if you're new, do subscribe, leave a like and some comment. I mean, you like the video, didn't like the video, what could be done to be improved or to make it a better or effective video, you can just leave that in the comment section. No harm will be done to no one. And yeah, that's it for me, guys, and we shall see each other.